Okay.
No, you look great. You look great. We'll just do it naturally. That'll be good. Okay.
Okay. You took
Oh,
it.
actually, you know what? I need to open my no screen share. Should I do that now or after?
It's up to you. Yeah, do the screen share. Well, it gives someone,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
just the faces that they'll be looking at.
Right. Okay. It says host disabled attendees screen sharing.
Oh, I'm so
Okay.
sorry. That's my bad. Okay.
All right.
Yes, I've got these security things all set up so
Yeah. No. Great.
just a second here.
Sharon, thank you for being patient with me. This is, I really, look, doing presentations is fine. Working with faculty, with teachers, hands-on and in workshops, love it. It's, I don't know what it is about the webinar, the camera thing, but anyway, but the more I do it, the more it'll just be easy. I just need to not think about it. Just think of it as a conversation with you.
And
And
I really appreciate that because I think we've all had to move to this as our way of contact with people now, right? But it still is mediated by a screen, and so it's I appreciate it's not as natural, but it's where we are right now with COVID, right?
I don't think, yeah, and I think I can be natural in the conversation. It's, I suppose maybe I don't know, maybe it's the permanence of it. If it's a video that I'm just putting too much pressure on what it will be. It's just going to be a conversation. You'll use it with your teachers. I hope it will be helpful. And I hope it will be helpful with other educators as well. So there we go. Probably what you should do is just tape me and not tell me like you did the first time. And then it will be fine.
Fine.
It
Okay.
will be fine. Okay, screen share. Here we go.
Great.
And all right. Oh, I don't know what that is.
I know I let you have access to it.
Yes, you did. You did. Just hang on for a second. I just have to
Oh,
find. Where's my? Yeah, here. I don't see the screen didn't come up for that though. I don't think. What's that? No, I don't know why. Okay.
you know what?
I don't. Okay, Sharon. I see right now. What do you see right now? Yourself?
The two of us. I'm going to make you co-host. That might give you more permission.
Okay, but I just. I mean, I have my page open, to my website, but I just don't see it on this white board.
Oh,
Where?
so it's not one of the choices that's come up?
No.
Well, that's odd. So
There's something that says there's a Google Chrome launch meeting. Is that?
no,
No.
no.
And then there are two other documents that were, I don't know, other documents that, okay, hang on for a second. I know what I need to do maybe. Hang on. No. Okay.
That's really odd.
It is weird as to why it's not showing up here. Okay. I mean, it's open on my website. I just don't see a screen for it. I see just.
Maybe try Google Chrome Launcher then. I don't know. I've never. Is that?
Oh, there. Is that it?
That's it. That's it. That's
Oh,
your.
great. Google Chrome launcher. That's it.
Okay, that's
All
great.
right.
Okay, well,
Super.
we are all learning along the way here.
Yeah. Shall I move my picture? Our pictures are just up to the top. Yeah. That's better.
Yeah, just one
The
second.
top. Then I look like I'm talking to you. I'm next to you. Cool.
Natural light going on for me. Okay, there. I don't
All
know if
right.
it's better or not with the lighting. I think it's better.
Okay. Your lighting looks. I think you look good to me. My lighting is good.
Yep, it looks all good. Yep.
Okay. Great.
Okay,
Okay.
we're ready to do this.
Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Brown. This is part of a series of conversations I'm having to make these webcasts available for educators. And the date today is April 10th, 2020. And with me is my good friend, Debra Rader, an international educator, an author of the book called Teaching and Learning for Intercultural Understanding. And today she's coming to us from Italy, where she's been living for some time, and she's going to share some amazing resources And I'm just going to hand it over to her so she can tell us a little bit more about herself, her background, and then let us know about what's going on in Italy.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno. It's lovely to be with all of you. It is an absolutely stunning day here in Lucca. Spring is here, and oblivious to the butterflies and the birds and the flowering trees is this that we are all living through. I'm an international educator. I've been living in Lucca for the last 15 years. I've been an international school teacher as well as a head teacher, a primary school principal. And I have always been very, very interested in international mindedness, in the idea and intercultural understanding. And these are conversations that we've all been having for a very long time. And was then very inspired to write my most recent book, which is Teaching and Learning for Intercultural Understanding, Engaging Young Hearts and Minds. And, here we are living in an extraordinary pandemic that has brought up so many issues for us, and it couldn't be more critical for us to be developing in children a way of being in the world that honors other cultures and languages, that engages with difference, that has compassion and empathy for others, that helps them to manage their emotions and to deal with change. These are certainly uncharted territories for all of us, and we're all sort of finding our way through it together. So I have developed a page of resources that I'd like to share with you today to offer other activities, other opportunities for social and emotional learning with children, to ensure their well-being, to encourage their compassion and caring. I think when we are all anxious and fearful, it's helpful for us to then reach out to others. It eases some of that stress for ourselves. We also know that kindness also makes us happier and can reduce our stress. So these are activities that I hope you'll find helpful in your work with children. And as I share them today, I hope it will inspire you to think about the connections that you can make in your particular context.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a teachable moment for all of us, and what an opportunity, a teachable opportunity moment, I guess. And you're so right about the build. It's an opportunity to build empathy, compassion, as well as cultural understanding, because it's a global pandemic. This isn't just something that's over there anymore. It's here. And it's
right.
there, and it's there, and it's there, and yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about what it's like in Italy. You guys have been a hot spot, unfortunately, and the news that we hear always seems to make it sound not good. But when I've had my conversations with you about this, and you shared something so incredible about the culture and the people there and how they're handling it. Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. The hotspot really has been further north, although here in Tuscany, we certainly have been feeling the effects of the coronavirus. It's been absolutely devastating here in Italy. But at the same time, the solidarity and spirit has been so heartening. People have reached out to each other in extraordinary ways, and you probably have all seen the Andrà Tutto Bene, Everything Will Be All Right rainbow that really started in Puglia. There were parents who had their children draw these rainbows as a message of hope, and really to be hopeful for them and others. And they've made their way now around the world, and in windows in Spain and France and other places as well. We've seen the applause for the frontline healthcare workers, which is so critical, and that has then also been seen in the U.S. and in the UK. There are just little things, people, we are part of a social WhatsApp group here on our hill. So I live outside of Lucca, which is a medieval walled city. Puccini was born here. It's up an hour from Florence and northeast of Pisa. And it's been extraordinary, just the small gestures that can make such a difference. I'm sure you've all seen them as well, where people are pushing notes through letter boxes saying, we're here if you need us. But things like just leaving a note on your rubbish bin to thank all of the rubbish collectors that are still coming out and working, lighting candles to light up the night to show that we're still here and to encourage others with hope. We've seen the singing from the balconies and the clapping and banging of pots and pans, and some of those things are still continuing. We've been, like I said, a little bit over 4 weeks into this. We've just received our face masks, which I believe will become mandatory, especially as we start to ease the lockdown. But in Italy, a country that is so vibrant, Sharon, you know this, so social, to see coffee bars shrink wrapped and restaurants closed and people social distancing in a country that's so tactile, it's surreal. And so we're living through it. We're all helping each other through it, neighbors, strangers. The outpouring of goodwill and heart has been quite extraordinary, quite amazing.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And for those of us who are now in this crazy new way of teachers having to deliver education in various ways. I mean, for our school, it's a lot through online delivery. You know, we're all kind of doing a swivel in trying to find, question out, what are we going to teach first of all, okay? Because we're looking at our curriculum and trying to take stock of, okay, is this really all that important? What is more important right now? What is the most important that we need to be thinking about for our students, And does it matter if we have an exam in June? Where are our opportunities for the best learning? So I'd love to see your resources, because I know that you're going to offer up some really good, inspiring ways to tap into this empathy and this compassion building and all that. So yes, please. And did you want to tell the story about the Andra Tutte Bene picture that you have on your blog?
Yes, this is from my neighborhood. This is Olivia, who lives down the road, who's 9, and how gorgeous. You'll see it says Olivia on one side and she's got family on the other. So really grounding that sort of rainbow of hope. And then she's drawn the world, which I think is beautiful, with people of different colors all holding hands. It's a particularly beautiful image. Driving around my neighborhood, we are only allowed out to go to the grocery store or to the pharmacy, to the chemist. And you'll see these attached to people's gates, to walls. And so I've been given permission to share hers, and she's delighted to help. So really lovely to see these around for all of us, adults and children as well. I've created this page of resources to offer up some additional activities and learning opportunities for educators as we're moving through this. And as you were saying, Sharon, yes, we're finding ways to look at how we're managing online learning, as well as learning remotely. Here in Italy, there are some, depending on the school, teachers are either holding classes with their students, or they're doing work in small groups and then coming back and sharing that with their classmates, depending on families, their ability to have devices or not to have devices is, there are a lot of parents then doing a lot of homeschooling as well. So these activities can certainly be used with parents too. And they could be things that teachers can share with parents. So there could be some collaborative learning happening at home and then shared between home and school, which would be really lovely. I'm going to just take you down through, there's, I wanted to speak, I guess, for a moment just about the importance of teacher and student relationships, particularly at this time. We know they're important for children's learning and well-being, but particularly in this crisis, a familiar face, the relationship you've already built with your students is so critical, and to continue that is so reassuring. I think it's reassuring for us as adults as well as for the kids too. So what I've done is I've created activities in different drop-down menus, and I'll just take you through them and then speak to a few of them in particular. So the first one is sharing music. And one of the ideas is to create playlists. And so these can be playlists of music that particularly move you, that inspire hope, friendship, compassion, joy, or how you're feeling. They can be done individually and shared. They can be done as a school as well. And pinned on and put on a community bulletin board where adults and children can pin songs. In fact, Jenny O'Fee, the primary school principal at Berlin Metropolitan School, has done this with her school, which is quite lovely. Music videos as well. Moved down to sharing art, so ideas for creating original artwork or sharing artwork that's inspiring. Sharing poetry, so writing original poetry. There are some wonderful poems that speak to this particular crisis that we're going through, and some of them are quite hopeful. Some of them are just describing the experience that poets are going through. So maybe sharing some of these. I've included a few of my favorites and inviting children to write their own poetry. Creating poetry anthologies and class poetry readings. The class poetry reading is an idea I actually got from listening to Radio 4. The BBC Radio 4 has been having guest readers come in and read poems to inspire their audience during this time. And I thought, what a wonderful idea for students to come and do that, to welcome their class, to share a piece of poetry and to perhaps share a piece of music. They can be doing this in their home languages as well as in English as well. So as you begin to share, just hear things on the radio or look at documentaries, you'll have ideas too that you can be sharing with your students. And of course, they'll have ideas as well from what they're experiencing. So really allowing possibility for them to share and to create some of their projects that they have in mind. Sharing journaling, there are questions that you can include in journaling with children, and of course inviting them to share their journals with you. And I think that journals in particular, but probably all of these activities, will be really helpful after we pass through this time and we go back and reflect on it. There's so much learning to look at in terms of what we were feeling, how we managed it, what we learned about reaching out to others and others who reached out to us. So the lessons are numerous. There are suggestions for journal topics as well. So, and suggestions for looking at things like idioms and proverbs in different cultures that might speak to the times that we're going through.
Oh, just beautiful ideas. Really.
Thank you. We'll move into this section on sharing, caring, compassion, sharing, caring, compassion, and creating community. And this really came to me. I'm going to come back to when I was principal at the International School of Florence and worked with the Student Council. And following the earthquake in L'Aquila in 2009, the students very much wanted to do something, helping children. And so we talked about the kinds of things that children need, and they shared ideas, and they thought that children needed books and they needed toys and they needed glasses. And then one little boy said, they need love. And we all thought that was just such a beautiful idea. Yes, they do need love. And how can we send our love or share our love with them? And the students went around to classes and explained their project, which was that classes could the students could create cards or artwork with messages of hope and love that we could then send to them in L'Aquila. We had a colleague who had a contact at the Red Cross or the Croce Rossa. And so we brought this beautiful collection of watercolor paintings and cards with this lovely message, non siete da soli, you're not alone, siamo con voi, we're with you, tied with ribbon, and they were sent with the next truckload of supplies to L'Aquila. I want to say one of the beautiful things about that project was we don't know, we kind of hope and assume that those children received those messages. We didn't receive a response. It wasn't something that the children, received feedback around. But there's great value, I think, in doing a good turn because it's a good turn. And so there was an enormous lesson to be learned there. I also think that that in education, we don't talk enough about love. And I think we need to. And this couldn't be a more perfect time to start. So this particular activity is around having students send messages of gratitude and encouragement to the frontline healthcare workers. And that can be done in a variety of ways. And there's a poem to inspire that, and your students will have lots of ideas for how they might do that. Also to reach out to the elderly and to people who are living alone. So really thinking about loneliness and what chronic loneliness could be like and how we can ease that for other people. One of my very favorite singer-songwriters is John Prine, who sadly just passed away a few days ago from complications with coronavirus. He wrote a beautiful song called Hello in There, which could be used very nicely with realizing that everyone, including the elderly, wish to be seen. There's a lovely project happening here in Lucca called Questi Giorni. And we have a Casa della Memoria e Pace, which opened in August. So it's the House of Peace and Memory. And the idea behind it was to really document and share our collective consciousness around the history, not only in Italia, but also in the city of Lucca. And they've started a collaboration with our local public library, Agora, and they're inviting children and adults to share videos, photographs, to draw, to share drawings. It could be cartoons or comics. You may know that Lucca is very well known for the Lucca Comics and Games Festival that happens every October. It could be poetry. And the purpose of this is to document these times for our community. It's happening very differently in every place, but I think for most of us, it's happening very, very quickly. And really our lives here changed in a matter of days. We were living life as usual, and then restaurants were open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then in 2 days, everything was closed. So we find ourselves in lockdown. So, such extraordinary times. But I thought, what a wonderful collaboration this could be between any school, really, and your local library, a local art gallery, or whatever partnership you might decide to approach in your country.
I love it. The idea of so many different ways of expressing ourselves through storytelling. I'm thinking to myself, well, how can I use this with my own teaching with my kids right now? And
yes, yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's storytelling, telling our story and sharing those stories, which is very powerful. And that's really, isn't that at the heart of intercultural understanding and knowing each other, is knowing each other's stories and being interested in those stories. The next section is sharing learning, and this is really inviting children's agency. I mean, it is about providing opportunities offline for students to research topics. Now, it can be any topic, but I've chosen topics here, or suggested topics that relate to the pandemic, that relate to what we're looking at, so what we're living through. So what is a coronavirus and how does it occur? Looking at the 1918 flu epidemic, exploring and researching the effects of kindness or the health benefits of mindfulness and yoga. How can we protect our mental health? What are the effects of chronic loneliness? And then using documentary, if students, I'm sure, are watching lots of things online, to choose a documentary that is of particular interest to them, and how could they then teach others about it? So lots of opportunities for some very creative learning and students' own inquiry.
yes. Oh, awesome.
Sharing our thinking this was an idea that was inspired, again, this is just by life, and this isn't it just what we do as educators, is we draw from our own interests and passions and what we see and hear, and we invite students to do the same. So listening again to BBC Radio 4, there was a program, The Global Philosopher, and there were men and women from around the world who were discussing the ethics of several issues that have come up around coronavirus. In this particular program, it was hoarding, it was surveillance used to ensure that people were complying with restrictions and the allocation of ventilators. So I'm suggesting that these could be interesting philosophy circles for middle and high school students. I'm sure there are other ideas that they'll come up with as well. Certainly could be interesting ideas actually for primary school, depending on the age. So a lot of these activities you'll adapt or choose based on the age of the students or children that you're working with. Then there are some well-being strategies. So really looking at creating well-being plans that can be shared or well-being guides. There are a couple of ideas here for sharing hope and staying connected. So again, the Andra Tutto Bene that we talked about, Geniofi, again in Berlin, has created a bulletin board where students can draw their rainbows and post them there. So a really nice way to do that within your school. There was a lovely piece on LinkedIn, a video from Victoria, Australia, where the Australian curriculum is really exemplary and leading the way in intercultural understanding. And these were students who had created a video to share friendship and encouragement and really show solidarity with their classmates in China who weren't able to return to Australia for school. And I thought, what a wonderful idea that would be for students to connect with either sister schools or relationship with other international schools. So I would encourage you to use your personal and professional network to connect with other schools, even within countries, schools in other cities, particularly those that are hard hit. Because I think, again, children helping children is powerful.
Right.
And then, of course, ideas for how we can reach out to others. There's a lovely video of children singing Nessun Dorma from Children in Rome. And so that video could be used just to spark the discussion with children on what are some of the ideas of ways that you can connect with others and offer your hope and your support and your love to them. And then there's well-being for educators. So there will be more resources. There's quite a helpful article about grief and dealing with our own feelings. But again, many of those suggestions can be used with our students too. And then the sharing of free lesson plans is coming. So working on those to help provide some additional resources for you.
Oh, there's so many great ideas there. It's making me wonder how to implement them at this point. And on the ground here, we've just really started school again this past week, and I mean, like I said, we were all in that position of doing that swivel of, okay, so here we are, and we've had conversations between ourselves as colleagues, just going, okay, well, exam or no exam, or finish the curriculum or not, or how much of a certain strand are we supposed to be expected to get through, and and I think there'll be some sorting out in the coming weeks of, okay, so what is fundamentally the most important things, and I've heard from many educators around the world, because I've been talking to quite a few, and they all come back to social well-being. We really have to look after the well-being of our students, and
Yes.
We were just reunited with them this week after being away from them for 2.5 weeks, and I could sense their apprehension. I could sense they realize now they're going through something profound. So so to tap into that, and you said it earlier, we're in unprecedented times, and I know I've been on this roller coaster of emotions, having to deal with loneliness, because I'm living by myself. I'm not with my family in any way. They're feeling quite separated from them right now, and as well as joy. Some days I'm trying to find joy, and then the grief.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that article, it was a very good article. That's the HBR article, isn't it? Yeah, they really nailed it in identifying that emotion that we're all going through, and saying it's grief. And because I think for myself, I was trying to, well, what am I feeling right now? And I couldn't anyway, they nailed it. So I think that's a very good article to go through.
And what's nice about that is, we're looking at how important that is to name emotions for ourselves as adults. And that's very much about what we do with children, with helping them to manage their emotions, is first to name them, to recognize them, so that they're able to manage them. And we can really help along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say that you said earlier, this is a teachable moment, and that's absolutely right. So I would say that the academics are important, and it's been interesting because schools in Italy as well as other countries, and I've been, like you, probably reading a lot um, about how teachers have gone maybe overboard with really assigning a lot of homework and making sure that students are keeping up with exactly what their syllabus or their classwork would be. It's not going to be exactly the same. We all need to, I think, first of all, be gentle with ourselves and do the best that we can. But I think it's also really critical that we use this time as a teachable moment for recognizing what we're living through, for attending to children's social and emotional well-being, and for helping them to look after themselves. And through that, how can they help look after others? A large part of this is all about responsibility, isn't it? And what is our responsibility for ourselves and for others? And it's a funny thing that, because we've seen this in lots of the news, people who aren't really willing to take responsibility and who aren't social distancing, and it's varying from place to place. And here in Italy, I have to say that in a country that sometimes likes to break the rules, people are following them, and we are social distancing and wearing masks and gloves and sanitizer for hands. And so anyway, there's a lot there, but I think definitely taking the time out to attend to what's happening in children's lives now, and creating learning, and affording them the opportunity to create learning around what we're living through is really powerful and critical learning. Yeah.
I'm hearing that word a lot as I'm talking with educators, the agency word, and building agency, giving them the opportunity to take control of their own learning and be able to express it. And this is definitely going to be a teachable moment for that too, because the kids will have to be able to do that. I mean, with the support of their family and all that. But I'm amazed. I'm pleased and I'm amazed the kids are stepping up. So so it's good so far.
Yes, they are. In fact, I just saw something the other day where, I think it was at the International School of Stuttgart, and it was a video that upper school students had done. It may have been a dance video, just to cheer up and to keep the spirits up of the lower school students. And I thought that was so lovely. So within schools, too, reaching out, to others and making a positive difference is nice. Nice to see.
Amazing. Yeah, I love hearing your stories. I love talking with you about this. I love your ideas, and your book, as well as our conversation, have inspired some of the units that I carried out with my students. So once again, I think I'm going to be looking through this and finding something that I can adapt to our situation. I really like the idea of identifying and finding another class somewhere else in the world and seeing if we could find a way to connect. And I'm going to put my thinking cap on around that for me and see who would be an appropriate place for us to reach out to. I think it's going to depend on the context of any teacher, any school, whether or not they can find that appropriate partner.
Yeah, that would be so lovely. And the students too may have connections with other schools they've been in. If you're working with an international school context, parents may have some contacts as well. But those are lovely ways to connect together. And I would say, Sharon, for you, and then for any of your colleagues or any teachers who are seeing this, please, if you have ideas or projects you've done with your students that you'd like to share with me, I'd be very happy to blog about them, to put them on my website, to share them out as well. I think the more that we can support each other and share with each other, the stronger we'll all be through this.
Absolutely. So Deb, where can we find your blog? Can you share that with us?
Yes.
Highly recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can find it. Actually, this is, so I'm taking you now, if you just go down to the bottom of every page, this is the resources page, you'll see, can you see, this is there was a blog that I wrote several weeks ago, Caring, Compassion, and COVID-19, and this is right when we were in lockdown, and so it was some initial ideas, and some initial ideas too, just about teaching kids about COVID-19. There's a great brain pop video that a lot of schools have used. And what was really lovely about that was, at the end, was a very clear message that this disease is not specific to a particular place or group of people, and that's really critical for all of us. To be sharing that message. You'll see, if you look along the bottom there, you'll see blogs and newsletters, but also on the menu bar, you can reach my blog that way as well. And then if indeed you'd like to have the blog sent to you by email, you can register for free on my website. There are also other resources if you register, and a few free lesson plans. So you can register to receive those. And then the lesson plans that I'm writing for this particular time will be free as well. So
it's DebraRader.com. That's what we should look for.
Yeah, DebraRader.com is it'll take you to the homepage. And then, in fact, for all of us who are also looking at sustainable development goals, the newsletter from January addressed that, and just looking at how intercultural understanding is compelling pedagogy for that as well. So
awesome.
Yeah, this is the time. The time is really here. I think but my hope, of course, is to see intercultural understanding embedded in all we do. It really becomes a way we live our lives. So it's not an extra or an add-on, but something that that if we just look at our curriculum and our materials through that lens, it very naturally lends itself to that really critical teaching. So,
thank you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to chat together.
Good conversation. It was good conversation. So, Deb, I'm going to say what I've been saying to a lot of people: Namaste, and of course, we actually met in India, I think.
Yes.
So Namaste, and thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome. So I'll say Namaste, and then I'll say Stammi bene, which is keep well, stay well.
Oh, thank you.